Good afternoon, everybody. Mr. Chairman and colleagues. The title is The Challenges for Sri Lanka in a Globalizing Geopolitics or Maximizing Global Interests. This is a paper about global politics, slightly different to other topics. The objective of this paper is to discuss the new challenges that Sri Lanka will have to face in a world where geopolitics is becoming global. Now, if you know, geopolitics is generally considered as international relations between states. But today, things are slightly becoming different to that normal perception. The content is this. I will first talk a little bit about geopolitics and how it is changing, and then introduce you to the concept of global interest, and then go into the challenges faced by Sri Lanka, ending with a conclusion. Now, look at this map. I mean, this is the familiar map. If you want to send somebody to show a world map, this is what we see. But this is not the real world. Okay, this is an artificial world that we have created, and geopolitics is based on that. If you want to know how the real world look like, you need to look at this. This is when you look at the world from out there. One of the key things that is not seen in this diagram are the boundaries on which we play international politics. The real world doesn't have this. Now that is what is called the global interest. Protect the globe, not protecting individual countries or individual interest. Now, why I'll tell you that? Now this figure, this is taken from the CO2 website. This is the carbon dioxide composition in the atmosphere. Parts per million. The safe limit of parts per million carbon dioxide is 350. Ladies and gentlemen, we reached that safe limit somewhere around 1980, and today our current is roughly around 397. We have passed the limit so badly, you never know whether we could actually go home after end of this conference. It's possible that some catastrophic event could happen in few hours, in few years, or in few decades. Only thing is we don't know. That is why we need to think about the global interest, not necessarily the national interest. Geographical foundation of international relations is the traditional definition given to geopolitics, but now it has slightly changed. It has become just any foundation of international relations, not necessarily the geography. Few things we need to know about geopolitics. Geopolitics is a global power game of states trying to maximize their national interests. That's the current situation. That's what India is doing. That is what US is doing. World consists of equal sovereignties, but remember, it is only theoretically. Okay, so we are never an equal to India or to US. Theoretically, we are equal, but practically, the world consists of unequal powers. Can't help it, that's the reality. The world we live in today is not theoretical. So therefore, these arguments that we have to be treated equally like India or US is all feel-good factor, but away from the realities. The double standard in geopolitics is a luxury available to big and superpowers, but not for us. US can do whatever it wants. It can do double standard, but it's something they have earned by being a big power. India can do the same thing, but unfortunately, we don't have that luxury. In current geopolitical realities in the world, if you look around, what do we see? Global problems. The global environmental problem, the climate change, for which I just showed you data. Second, there's a global human problems, human rights. It's not just citizen rights, citizens of Sri Lanka or citizens of China. It's global human rights problem. Then there is the global economic problem, that is all the countries are interdependent. No country is immune to the global economy. And then there's the global cultural problems, that is the emerging global consumer culture, and also the civilizational conflict, West versus East, Middle East versus Europe, things like that. Finally, there is the global political problem of world moving towards democracy. All these Arab Springs and all that is a result of it. Now, what is global interest? Geopolitics has traditionally been the study of fundamentals behind international, that's meaning interstate relations. However, geopolitics has experienced two major transformations during the last 2 decades. What are they? Number one, geopolitical determinant, that is what the determinants that define our relationship with other countries. Relations has been moving away from geographical and locational into political, economic and cultural. Now our relations with the rest of the world will be defined not by simply by where we are located, but by our political, economic and cultural relations with the rest of the world. Second change is, as a consequence of the first, geopolitics has been moving in the direction away from state orientation towards global orientation. Instead of talking about national interest, now the countries are talking about global things. They are talking about the global environmental problems, global human rights, things like that. So we shouldn't be too taken aback when America or when Geneva ask us to protect our human rights. That's where the world is heading. It's nothing against Sri Lanka, but that's the nature of geopolitics. Growing global interest has also had a fundamental impact in conceptualization of the geopolitics as the effort of state to maximize their national interest. While national interests still play a significant role, the global interests are gaining increasing legitimacy. The states are thus expected to surrender a part of their sovereignty which has been jealously guarded by them to maximize the national interest to achieve global interest. So once again, looking at Sri Lanka, Sri Lankan sovereignty, we are expected to surrender part of our sovereignty to protect the global interest, human rights for example. So we don't have the luxury of telling the world, this is an internal issue. You look the other way. We are no longer in that world. Geneva, the UN, has the right to look into, pressurize Sri Lanka to protect human rights and other interests as well. There is a clear evidence of clash between the national interest and global interest. So when that happens, the countries get agitated, saying others are infringing into our sovereignty. This is geopolitics, not people who don't understand geopolitics. Those who understand the modern geopolitics will not be disturbed by that. Global interests are two types. Now this is, here it relates to the previous presentation about tsunami and all that. One global interest is protecting the earth, not protecting a country, but protecting the entire earth as the home of the humankind is increasingly gaining significance in the context of climate change impacts. Tsunami is partly that defies the national boundaries. When tsunami hits, it doesn't care about the boundaries. Okay. Second one, the protecting the human rights, which are considered more fundamental than citizen rights of a state. See, Sri Lanka or China or India or any other country cannot tell the world, this is an internal matter, this is citizens' right. We will look after our citizens. No, it's no longer the case. The world is looking at every other country and looking and saying whether they are protecting the human rights of those individuals. So it's gaining ascendancy all around the world. Now, in that context, what are the challenges for Sri Lanka? Safeguarding global interests are done at two levels. One, several leading international organizations have made global interest their mandate and bring pressure on state to act accordingly. So UN, Human Rights Commissions, they will do that. We trying to argue the opposite, saying that you have no interest here, is a statement by people who don't understand modern geopolitics. They will continue to do that. Geneva will continue to exert pressure on us, not only Geneva, Washington, New Delhi and other places. Second, some geopolitically powerful states unilaterally, bilaterally or through the existing international organizations exert pressure on the other states to act accordingly. Don't think that the West is exerting pressure only on Sri Lanka. They are bringing similar pressure on other countries as well. So this is how the global geopolitics happens.